Dr. Joe Dispenza is about to show you the most powerful secret of personal transformation. It is real, powerful, and it's all around us. So sit tight and let's dive in.
The only challenge, I think, with addictions is that the moment you say, I'm not going to drink coffee, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes, I'm not going to drink alcohol, I'm not going to have sugar. The moment you make that conscious declaration with your conscious mind, the body has been conditioned and dependent on that substance. So 2 hours goes by and the body has modified its receptor sites and it starts talking to the brain. It starts saying, why don't you start tomorrow? Tomorrow's a better day. Any other day but this day. This is not a good day for you. It's my parents' fault. It's my boss. It's the news. And that thought is being driven by the body-mind. Now, if we act on that thought, we make it the same choice, we do the same thing, we create the same experience, we feel the same emotion, and then all of a sudden that emptiness or that emotional state goes away, and the person returns back to the known. So there is a biological, there is a neurological, there's a chemical, there's a hormonal genetic death of the old self, because you're breaking that stimulus and response. That inhibition then causes the body to feel chaos. It's looking for the known, the familiar. So instead of white knuckling it to the other side, we teach people how to regulate their internal emotional states. And over time, you start seeing the moment you're feeling an elevated emotion like gratitude or appreciation or kindness or care or in love with life, you don't need anything outside of you to make you feel better. You're actually doing it by yourself. And people can sustain these states like any habit for an extended period of time. I mean, think about it. I mean, how could you want if you're whole? If you're whole, there's no need to want, there's no lack, there's no separation. We do a lot of studies on brain coherence and heart coherence. When there's an emergency or when we're aroused by some threat or some condition in our life, or we can't predict an outcome, we can't control an outcome, we have the perception that something in our world could possibly get worse, we switch on that primitive nervous system, right? That fight or flight nervous system, and now the game is fight, run, or hide. The problem is with human beings, when we're at it, we feel like a loss of control. Our brain all of a sudden tries to control everything in our life. So every person, every object, everything, every place, every experience that you've ever had is mapped in your neocortex. So the arousal of the stress hormones drives the brain into a very high brainwave state called high beta. But then as you shift your attention from one meeting to another text to another person, to another thing, to another place you have to go, every one of those different elements has a neurological network in the brain. So like a lightning storm in the clouds, the brain starts firing out of order. It starts firing incoherently. And when the brain is incoherent, we're incoherent. And so think about when you're stressed. The most common thing that people do is they over-focus. They narrow their focus on whatever it is that's driving them to pay attention to it. And so then the act of paying attention to the problem is actually driving the brain further out of balance. And we've studied this. When you analyze that problem, that circumstance, that condition within the emotion that you are feeling and derived by the hormones of stress, you'll make your brain worse 100% of the time, because the analysis, the over-analysis is driving it further into a higher thinking, higher beta brainwave state. So this kind of narrow focus is what causes the brain to be a house divided against itself. So we thought, well, why don't we do the opposite? Why, instead of narrowing our focus on the cause, something physical, something material, because the hormones of stress actually heighten the senses and cause us to become materialists. So matter is the issue when there's survival. It's whatever's around the corner. It's whatever's going to happen. So we said, okay, let's teach people something else. Let's teach them how to broaden their focus. And as they broaden their focus and take their attention off of everything material and everything known and focus on space, focus on nothing, the act of doing that actually starts slowing down the analytical mind. You can't analyze when you're sensing. And it starts to change the person's brainwaves into a slower brainwave pattern. And so now as you start slowing your brainwaves from that high beta, you start slowing down, you're shifting gears, you go into a mid-range beta, then you go into a low-level beta, and then all of a sudden you get into alpha. Now alpha, when you're in alpha, the voice in your head, the critic in your mind goes away. That voice that's talking to you stops, and the brain tends to see in images, pictures. That's the imaginary state. That's a creative state. And in alpha, when you're out of survival, you're looking for answers. You're creative. You're looking for new ways of doing things. So when they broaden their focus, not only do they move into alpha, but all of a sudden we start seeing those different compartments of the brain that were once subdivided all of a sudden starting to unify. Different communities of neurons that were fragmented start to synchronize. So what syncs in the brain, links in the brain. So when you see the front of the brain talking to the back of the brain, the right side of the brain talking to the left side of the brain, you start knowing something good is starting to happen and the person's starting to create more order. So when you see those psychic union of two hemispheres coming together, the polarity, that person starts to feel incredibly whole. And coherence, when you have waves that are coherent, when they build or interfere with each other, their waves get bigger. And the higher the amplitude of the wave, the higher the energy in the brain. All of a sudden, the person starts to become very relaxed and no longer stressed in a program and kind of alert and awake. At the same time, when you're resentful or frustrated or impatient and you're sitting in traffic, the same hormones are released and your heart is actually beating like there's a tiger behind you, but you can't run, you can't fight, you can't hide, and the traffic is frustrating you even more. You're releasing more of those chemicals, so the heart starts beating against the closed system. And when that happens, the heart starts beating out of order. Now, the heart's incoherent. So when incoherent waves interfere with each other, they're out of order, they diminish energy in the brain, and energy leaves the heart. And this is when we stop trusting. This is not a time to communicate. This is not a time to learn. This is not a time to be creative. And energy leaves the heart. So we discovered then when a person truly starts practicing those elevated emotions, the heart gets very orderly, very coherent as well. And now, when you start feeling the emotions of the things that you want in your life or that you would like to create in your life ahead of the actual experience, it's impossible for you to want it. Why could you possibly want it if you feel like it's already happened? Now, here's the cool part. Maintain that modified state of being. Get so good at doing it with your eyes closed. Start practicing with your eyes open. And if you can maintain that modified state of mind and body your entire day, coherent heart, soon as energy reaches the heart, we've done thousands of studies on this, it's going straight to the brain. The heart starts to inform the brain that it's safe to create. At the exact same time, the heart begins to produce an external magnetic field. You've got a Wi-Fi signal now. You start feeling connected. You start feeling more whole. And the brain is coherent. It's directing a very clear vision of what it wants. Combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, you have a different Wi-Fi signal. You have a different energy. And now the cool part about that is you start to see those synchronicities, those coincidences, those opportunities start showing up in your life, and you're not going anywhere to get them. They're actually coming to you.
Dr. Joe Dispenza's captivating speech on overcoming addictions is not only thought-provoking, but also challenges us to rethink how we manifest our desires and heal our bodies. His assertions are far from mere speculation. They resonate with findings in quantum physics, epigenetics, and neuroscience. Connecting the knowledge of famous thinkers like Einstein and Jung to modern brain science and psychology, the speech reveals how a deeper understanding of our minds and bodies can truly transform our lives. Imagine waking up one day and deciding, I'm done with social media, junk food, procrastination, or binge-watching TV. You make this conscious choice with all the good intentions in the world, but something interesting happens within your body. It's like your body and mind are having a conversation. You see, when you quit something your body is used to, it's not thrilled about it. It starts to modify its receptor sites, sending signals to your brain. Your brain, in turn, starts convincing you to delay the change. Maybe tomorrow is a better day to quit, it says. But here's the twist. This dialogue between your body and brain isn't just psychological. It's biological, neurological, and chemical. Now, why does this happen? Habits are like well-trodden paths in our brain. When we decide to quit something, it's like trying to pave a new path through a dense forest. This resistance isn't just in your head, it's happening at a cellular level. Scientist Glenn Rain, PhD, conducted experiments to understand how our conscious choices impact our biology. In one study, individuals practiced techniques to build heart-focused coherence. They held vials containing DNA samples and focused on positive emotions, and there were no significant changes found. But in another group, they did something different. They combined positive emotions with the intention to change the DNA shape. Astonishingly, the DNA strand started winding and unwinding by as much as 25%. That showed that our conscious thoughts and emotions can directly affect our biology. Now picture this. The universe isn't just a collection of solid objects. Thanks to quantum physics, we know that it's a vast sea of possibilities and probabilities. It changes the old Newtonian idea that everything is solid. Instead, subatomic particles, when unobserved, exist in a wave state of potential. Here's where it gets mind-boggling. Quantum experiments have shown that the act of observation influences the behavior of these particles. It's like they're waiting for someone to watch. This phenomenon, known as the observer effect, means that our thoughts and consciousness are entangled with the physical world. One remarkable experiment conducted by physicist Richard Feynman and his team involved observing electrons. They set up an experiment where electrons could travel through two slits towards a screen. In classic physics, you'd expect to see two distinct and separate spots corresponding to the two slits. However, when they observed this experiment with electrons, something astonishing happened. Instead of two bands, they saw an interference pattern of multiple bands, as if each electron went through both slits simultaneously and interfered with itself. This is similar to what you see when two sets of waves in water overlap and interact with each other. It shows that light and electrons can behave like waves, not just particles. Now think about your emotions as signals to the universe. When you're feeling positive emotions like gratitude or love, you're emitting a different kind of energy. It's not about needing external things to make you feel better. You're doing it all by yourself. Here's where the brain comes into play. When you're stressed, your brain fires erratically and your heart follows suit. But when you shift your focus away from material concerns and enter a state of mental calmness, you move from high beta to mid-range beta and eventually reach the creative, image-rich state of alpha. In alpha, the inner critic goes quiet and the brain's two hemispheres unite, creating a sense of wholeness. This coherence generates a magnetic field, connecting you to the world. Your brain and heart start to communicate effectively, and you become open to synchronicities and opportunities. Scientifically, this means that practicing elevated emotions can influence your genes. Epigenetics, a field of study that explores how our environment influences our genes, sheds light on this phenomenon. It reveals that our emotional state signals our genes. When you consistently embrace elevated emotions, your body thinks it's in a new, healthy environment. Consequently, genes associated with health are upregulated, while those linked to disease are downregulated. Imagine this scenario. You've shifted into that elevated emotional state. You're in alpha, and your brain and heart are in sync. What happens next is truly remarkable. Your heart begins to emit a coherent electromagnetic field, like a Wi-Fi signal. It's as if you're broadcasting a message to the universe. Now, here's where it gets intriguing. You start noticing synchronicities, coincidences, and opportunities showing up in your life. But you're not actively seeking them. They're coming to you. It's like the universe is responding to your new vibrational frequency. Researchers have conducted studies on novice meditators to understand the biological changes that occur when someone immerses themselves in this state for a week. The results are astonishing. These individuals experience substantial biological changes in their blood. It's as if their bodies believe they're in a different environment. Now, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Your thoughts and emotions are not just fleeting experiences. They're forces that can reshape your reality. Think of them as tools to sculpt your life. But here's the kicker. Change doesn't happen when you stick to the same thought patterns and emotional cycles. It's only when you break free from the old patterns that you can initiate a transformation. The familiar, though comforting, can also be limiting. By shifting your forces from the known to the unknown, from material concerns to a state of mental calmness, you tap into the creative potential of your mind. This shift in consciousness can lead to unexpected outcomes and astonishing manifestations. The key is to let go of rigid expectations and embrace the unexpected. Trust that the universe has a way of orchestrating events in your favor. Surrender to the flow of life, and you'll find that reality can be more flexible and accommodating than you ever imagined. how can we flip the script? Instead of hyper-focusing on problems and material concerns, we teach ourselves to broaden our focus. By shifting our attention away from the known and the material, we enter a state of mental calmness. This shift helps calm the mind, brings order back to our brain, and allows us to think more clearly and creatively. Now, let's explore the role of the heart in this symphony of consciousness. When we shift into a state of elevated emotion and mental calmness, our heart begins to emit a coherent electromagnetic field. It's like upgrading to a strong Wi-Fi signal, and suddenly we feel connected and whole. This heart-brain coherence isn't just a feel-good state. It's a powerful signal to the universe. It says, "I'm ready to create something new." In response, synchronicities, opportunities, and coincidences start manifesting in our life. This shift isn't about seeking external validation or material gains. It's an internal transformation that ripples outward. It's the understanding that by changing our inner world, we can shape our outer reality. Our thoughts and emotions become the tools to sculpt a life beyond our wildest dreams. The way we respond to our environment influences our genes more than we realize. Epigenetic reveals that genes don't dictate our fate. It's our response to the environment that matters. Imagine your genes as an orchestra, each gene playing a unique instrument. When you experience the same emotion day in and day out, it's like playing the same note repeatedly. Your body becomes conditioned to this emotional tune, and it keeps signaling the same genes in the same way. Now, let's change the tune. When you shift to elevated emotions, your body starts playing a different melody. It's like learning a new song. Your body doesn't know the difference between experiencing the emotion for real and creating it through thought alone. This shift signals your genes that you're in a different environment. You downregulate genes associated with disease and upregulate genes linked to health. Your body adapts to this new emotional state, creating a positive feedback loop of well-being. To grasp the science behind this transformation, consider this one-week study involving novice meditators. In just 7 days, their blood samples revealed remarkable changes in over 2,800 metabolites, exosomes, and gene expression. What's astonishing is that these changes occurred while the participants were in a simple ballroom setting. The transformation wasn't external, it was happening within them. The shift in their mental and emotional state triggered profound biological shifts. By practicing elevated emotions, they accessed a coherent state of heart and brain, unleashing a cascade of biochemical changes. This not only improved their well-being, but also rewrote the script of their genetic destiny. Instead of relying on external substances for fulfillment, you have the power to regulate your internal emotional states. You can generate elevated emotions such as gratitude, appreciation, and kindness from within. As you sustain these emotional states, you'll find you no longer need external crutches to feel better. You become whole and self-sufficient, transcending the cycle of addiction and dependency.